Have you ever glanced at your fuel gauge and sworn you just filled up yesterday? It's a frustrating feeling, watching your hard-earned money burn away faster than it used to. There's a common misconception out there that as a car gets older, it's just destined to get worse gas mileage. We treat it like aging joints. We assume it's inevitable. But here's the reality check. Cars don't lose efficiency simply because they are old. They lose efficiency because they are tired. Specifically, they are suffering from poorly maintained systems that are screaming for help. When your car hits that 100,000 or 200,000 mile mark, the margin for error gets razor thin. Small things, like a dirty filter or a misfiring spark plug, that you might ignore on a new car can devastate the fuel economy of an older one. And it's not just the miles. External factors like scorching hot weather or stop-and-go traffic compound the issue. So how do you turn back the clock? How do you make your engine sip fuel like it did on day one rather than guzzling it? You need to look at the Big 7. These are the 7 most common yet often overlooked reasons your MPG is tanking, and exactly how to fix them. 1. The garden hose effect. Clogged or damaged fuel injectors. Let's start with the heart of the fuel delivery system, the injectors. To understand why this matters, imagine you are watering your garden. When the hose nozzle is clean, you get a perfect fine mist that covers the plants evenly. Now imagine filling that nozzle with dirt. Instead of a mist, you get a solid, heavy stream that splashes everywhere and drowns the plants. Your fuel injectors work the same way. They are designed to spray a precise, high-pressure mist of fuel into the engine's cylinders. This mist mixes with air and ignites. When an injector gets clogged with carbon deposits or debris over time, that precise mist turns into a sloppy dribble. The result? Your engine can't burn the fuel efficiently. It's dumping raw gas into the cylinder that doesn't fully ignite, which means you are literally throwing fuel away every time you accelerate. The fix. In many cases, this is a hygiene issue. A professional fuel system cleaning can often blast away the deposits and restore that fine mist spray pattern. However, if the injector is mechanically damaged or leaking internally, cleaning won't help. You will need to replace it. If your engine feels sluggish or stutters when you step on the gas, check these first. 2. The asthmatic engine, old engine air filters. Your car is essentially a massive air pump. It needs to breathe in to function. For every gallon of gas your car burns, it needs to suck in thousands of gallons of air to create the explosion that moves your wheels. Now picture trying to run a marathon while breathing through a straw. That is what you are doing to your car when you leave a dirty, clogged air filter in place. As the filter fills up with dust, pollen, and road grime, your engine has to work significantly harder to pull air through that blockage. On older carbureted cars, this was a death sentence for MPG. The engine would literally choke, creating a vacuum that sucked in more gas to compensate for the lack of air. On modern cars, post-1980s, the computer tries to adjust, but the engine still suffers from pumping losses. It's wasting energy just trying to breathe. The fix. This is arguably the cheapest and easiest maintenance task you can do. Air filters should generally be swapped out every 15,000 to 30,000 miles. But don't just go by the odometer. If you drive on dusty roads or in polluted cities, check it sooner. If it looks gray and grimy, toss it. A fresh filter lets your engine breathe deep and run efficient. 3. The brain fog. Dirty oxygen, O2, sensors. If the engine is the heart, the sensors are the nervous system. Since 1996, virtually every car on the road has utilized oxygen sensors, O2 sensors, to manage fuel economy. Think of the O2 sensor as a sophisticated sniffer located in your exhaust pipe. Its job is to sniff the exhaust fumes leaving the engine and tell the car's computer if the mixture is too rich, too much gas, or too lean, too much air. If the O2 sensor is covered in soot or oil, it gets slow or provides false data. It might tell the computer, "Hey, we are starving for fuel here." Even when everything is fine, the computer reacts by dumping extra fuel into the engine to be safe. This single failing part can drop your fuel efficiency by up to 40%. That is massive. According to data from Edmunds, a faulty O2 sensor is one of the leading triggers for a check engine light, yet people often ignore it because the car still runs. The fix: don't ignore the warning light. O2 sensors have a lifespan, usually degrading significantly by 100,000 miles. They are relatively affordable to replace, and doing so pays for itself in gas savings almost immediately. Plus, it keeps your emissions clean, which is good for everyone. 4. The blocked arteries, clogged fuel filters. We talked about the injectors, the nozzle. But what about the plumbing leading up to them? That's where the fuel filter comes in. Your gas tank isn't a sterile environment. Over years, sediment, rust from the tank, and contaminants from gas station pumps settle at the bottom. The fuel filter's job is to catch this junk before it hits your delicate engine. When this filter gets clogged, it restricts the flow of fuel. It lowers the fuel pressure, making the fuel pump work overtime. This can lead to a car that feels weak, hesitates when you try to pass someone on the highway, and generally runs inefficiently. In severe cases, a clogged filter can even starve the engine enough to damage the fuel pump itself. The fix. For older vehicles, this is a critical maintenance item. Manufacturers usually recommend changing it every 2 years or 30,000 miles. Note that some modern cars have lifetime filters integrated into the fuel tank, but for most cars on the road today, this is a serviceable part. If you have ruled out other issues, have a mechanic perform a fuel pressure test to see if your arteries are blocked. 5. The missed heartbeat. Bad ignition system. Parts: you have air and you have fuel. Now you need the spark. The ignition system, comprised of spark plugs, ignition coils, and wires, is responsible for lighting the fire inside the cylinder. If a spark plug is worn down or a coil is weak, you get a misfire. This means the fuel was injected into the cylinder, but the spark wasn't strong enough to burn it completely, or at all. That unburned fuel is just pushed out of the exhaust pipe. You paid for that gas and your car just spat it out without using it to move the wheels. A misfiring engine sounds rough, shakes at idle, and lacks power. It forces you to push the pedal down harder to get up to speed, which wastes even more gas. The fix. Spark plugs are the usual suspects here. They endure extreme heat and pressure and eventually wear out. Check your owner's manual for the interval. Some are copper and last 30,000 miles. Others are iridium and can last 100,000 miles. If you are experiencing a rough idle or a drop in power, a tune-up of the ignition system is likely overdue. 6. The thicker is better. Myth. Old or incorrect engine oil. Here is a controversial one. There is an old-school garage myth that says, as your car gets older, you should switch to thicker, heavier oil to stop leaks. The logic seems sound on paper. Seals shrink and get brittle with age, so thick oil won't drip out as easily. While high-mileage oils are beneficial, simply increasing the viscosity, thickness, can backfire. Thick oil is harder to pump. It creates more resistance, drag, against the moving parts inside your engine. Imagine trying to swim through honey versus swimming through water. Swimming through honey takes way more energy. When you use oil that is too thick, your engine has to burn more gas just to overcome that internal friction. The fix. Stick to the viscosity recommended in your owner's manual, e.g. 5W30 or 0W20. However, do consider switching to a high-mileage blend of that specific weight. High-mileage oils contain special conditioners that swell and rejuvenate old rubber seals to prevent leaks, without adding the unnecessary drag of a thicker oil. Regular oil changes are the single best thing you can do for your engine's longevity and efficiency. 7. The suffocating sensor. Dirty mass airflow sensor, MAF. Finally, we have the mass airflow sensor, MAF. While the O2 sensor measures air leaving the engine, the MAF measures the air entering it. The car's computer relies on the MAF to know exactly how dense the air is, so it can inject the mathematically perfect amount of fuel. But here's the problem. The MAF is located right in the intake stream. Over time, it gets coated in microscopic dust that gets past the air filter or oil residue from the PCV system. When the sensor wire gets dirty, it insulates the sensor. It can't feel the air accurately. It ends up sending lazy or incorrect data to the computer. The computer might think there is less air coming in than there actually is, causing it to run the engine too lean, dangerous, or too rich, wasteful. A dirty MAF can cause hesitation, stalling, and a significant drop in MPG. The fix, the good news? You might not need a new part. You can often clean the MAF sensor yourself. You need a specific can of mass airflow sensor cleaner. Do not use generic cleaners or touch the delicate sensor wire with your fingers. A quick spray down can restore its accuracy and get your fuel mixture back to the perfect ratio. Your car is a complex machine, a symphony of thousands of parts working in unison. When one section of the orchestra is out of tune, the whole performance suffers. If your gas mileage has been dipping lately, don't just accept it as the cost of driving an older vehicle. Start with the basics. Check your filters, listen to your engine, and pay attention to those warning lights. Routine maintenance isn't just about keeping the car running. It's about keeping money in your pocket every time you pass a gas station. So this weekend, pop the hood. Take a look at that air filter. Check your records for the last time you changed your plugs. A little bit of love goes a long way toward keeping your car chugging along just as efficiently as the day you bought it.